people who are contemplating moving to a community now, they want to feel engaged. They want to have a voice in their community. They want more fitness, preventative kind of well-being efforts, not reactive healthcare.
Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Maria, thank you so much for being here today. It is an honor to have you on the podcast.
Oh, well, I appreciate you asking me. I don't know if it's an honor, but I'm happy to participate.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited for many reasons, but one of which is I'm a huge fan of John Knox Village, where you are a leader, and I used to work there as well. So I got to see the inner workings of everything you guys have going on there. Before we jump into like the senior living John Knox side of things, I'm curious how you landed in your chair today. We kind of summarized it in your bio, but how does one end up in a career of senior living? And did you imagine that when you were 19 and 20?
Oh, no, I don't know that it even registered that there was an industry out there called senior living. So my background actually prior to, and why I came to John Knox Village was in public relations. And I had worked for a national law firm with their PR all across the country. And they relocated their headquarters from Kansas City to Cleveland. And so I was looking for a job and saw that there was a public relations manager position out here at John Knox Village, and I applied. And over the last literally 35 years, which sounds kind of crazy, especially in today's world, I accumulated more and more responsibilities to the position I have now. So I had really a significant career progression, but all with the same company. Rachel, I don't think a lot of people contemplate senior living as a career option. So when I started as public relations manager, I was a public relations person at a retirement community. And then as the years went on, I kind of became a retirement community public relations person. And then I just became a retirement community professional. So I think that a lot of people maybe come to senior living, but then when they stay, they really become an industry professional as opposed to what their original career path was, if that makes any sense. And I think that there are so many opportunities for interpersonal connection and long-term relationships and really meaningful work that some people who might have never contemplated entering the industry end up staying because they can walk away at the end of the day knowing that they made an impact on people's lives, improved people's quality of life, and formed really lasting friendships and relationships that you might not be able to get in another industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys have trouble recruiting employees for that reason, that it's kind of a hidden industry that people don't think about going into as their career path? Or is it usually you have to recruit people, like you're saying, for their specific expertise, and then they fall in love with working in senior living?
I would say that is probably more accurate. We have such a wide range of career options here, Rachel, from grounds and dining and housekeeping and maintenance to marketing and IT and accounting. So there's this wide range of opportunities. And one of the things that we really strongly believe in is hiring for attitude and training for skill. So when we find somebody or they find us and it's a good match, we get a lot of longevity from our associates. But we do have enough frontline positions that are just characteristically higher in turnover that you would see, outside of the village as well. But we do know that some people maybe leave sometimes for, other reasons, and then they come back because they really miss the meaningfulness of working not for a business or an organization, but working in a community and having those really long-lasting relationships that just are icing on the cake, because you're not just walking away with your paycheck, you're walking away with these fulfilling days of relationships and making a difference for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the average person, like people like know of John Knox Village or other retirement communities around Kansas City, but when they think of them, they probably think of like the nursing home, which is a huge piece of it, but not all of it. What is like the scope of what you guys are doing at John Knox Village, and how diverse of a population do you serve in terms of need?
That is the best question you could ask, because there's so many assumptions people make, and they're usually incorrect, because we actually are what's called a life plan community, which is our industry term, but people don't necessarily know what that means. We used to call ourselves continuing care retirement communities. And basically what both of those terms encompass is a strong independent living component, which means people moving from their home into another home at John Knox Village that is basically a maintenance-free home. So it might be a freestanding house or a cottage or villa or an apartment, and, availing themselves to all the amenities, programs, and services for a really robust lifestyle. But then if they need more assistance or more care, they might progress to assisted living. A lot of people have heard that term, which helps with those daily activities of living, maybe medication management, daily check-ins and support, 3 meals a day. And then some residents do indeed need to move to the nursing home. But what we have found as an industry is that people prefer to be, as independent as possible for as long as possible. And studies have shown that when you move to a retirement community like John Knox Village, or there's a host of really good ones here in Kansas City and across the nation, that we can extend that independent living because we have the support for health and well-being and nutrition and exercise and connection and community that helps people stay independent longer. And that is one of the key benefits of moving to John Knox Village or another life plan community.
Mm-hmm. What's your advice for people that have aging loved ones, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that they're starting to get concerned about in their own home and want to kind of introduce this concept without making them feel like they're sending them to the home? How do you advise people on like kind of beginning to explore this option with people they love without offending them and making them think that they're, incapable of continuing to live independently?
Years ago, when I was part of the marketing team as the public relations manager, we had sweatshirts made that said, "I'm not ready for that yet." And I think about, what are you not ready for? Housekeeping services, somebody to shovel your snow, somebody to come same day if you have a maintenance repair, people taking care of your lawn. And then you get to go do all sorts of fun things: bowl, golf, learn how to tap dance, play the dulcimer, do arts and crafts, go to movies in our theater, dine out with your friends. And so I think that as a society, we need to recognize that people in their older age can still live very fulfilled, meaningful lives. They vote, they volunteer out in the community, they support their schools. And so when an adult child like myself, perhaps talking to a parent, it's about helping them feel more independent, helping them feel more engaged because they have all this opportunity around them. And some of those mundane tasks that are on our to-do list every weekend, right? All these kind of things that we want to take care of are done for them. And so it's not taking away independence, it's enhancing their independence in an environment that is really supportive, from the sense of community, the neighborliness, the support of the staff. And, people living in their own home, as we found during the pandemic, people can become very isolated. And so often people move here thinking like, I have to pick my floor plan, I have to pick my color palette of my home, and is my sofa going to fit? And they're very focused on the home that they're going to live in. But once they move in, they realize that there are all these other benefits that really are more enhancing to their well-being than whether they have the beige color palette or the gray color palette. But it's until they get here and they feel that support, that's when they really get it. And so I think adult children should embrace and encourage their parents. Sometimes the parents want to come and the children are resistant, and sometimes it's the other way around. And I know, as the adult child of parents who lived where I grew up in Arizona, it was such a blessing for me to know that they were at a place that could support their needs every day, because I wasn't in the same town as them. And so we often tell our residents, or our prospective residents, people who are considering moving to the village, that this is a fantastic gift to give your children, because you've already made the decision about how your care is going to be provided as your needs change. You're going to be in the same place. And especially with spouses, a husband and wife might move in, and one may encounter health care needs prior to the other one. And they can live on the same campus, and they can use our transportation services and have our security to feel safe and secure in their environment. And so, my hope is anybody listening to this, whether it is a senior or an adult child, that they begin to open their eyes to really all that a senior living community can offer, instead of being resistant based on some stereotypes that really no longer apply.
How has that changed over your decades working in this industry? Not only in public
That makes me sound old, Rachel.
Seasoned. You've seen lots of different generations come through, though, really, and every generation kind of has their own spin on what they value. How has that changed in terms of the kinds of residents you're seeing come in, and whether they're coming in early because they're excited or whether they're coming in kicking and screaming? How has that changed over the last 20, 30 years?
Well, I appreciate you recognizing that it does change, and that not all seniors are the same. I mean, when we have people here who are in their 60s and people button up against 100, one senior isn't every senior. And we do have multiple generations, and we're starting to see the older baby boomers move into the village. And we just announced last week that we're doing a dog park, our Barks and Rec campaign to raise money for a dog park that we hope to build this spring. We're planning pickleball courts. People that maybe used to come here and they gave up their car, they don't give up their cars anymore. And some people have two cars, or some couples have two cars. They want, larger kitchens and islands, and they want recreation for their grandchildren. And so it is a more discerning client that is moving into the village versus like the GI generation that was very different if you look at the psychographics and demographics of that generation. But the people who are contemplating moving to a community now, they want to feel engaged. They want to have a voice in their community. They want more fitness, preventative kind of well-being efforts, not reactive healthcare. How can we, provide balance screening so that they can engage in exercises that help prevent them from falling? Exercise is very different among our residents now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And that really has come with some societal shifts about prevention. And so it is a different client, and we have to build our homes. We're tearing down 50-year-old apartment buildings, and the buildings we are putting back in the same spot, they look very different on the inside in terms of what people want, larger bathrooms, bigger closets, higher ceilings, bigger windows, all those kinds of things. So we always have to be paying attention to the shifts in the needs and wants of the marketplace and build accordingly. And, we're on 224 acres out here. And so we always have multiple projects going on to try to keep our campus current and to have a wide variety of housing options for people who are considering moving here.
Do you think you'll ever feel like caught up? Like, okay, now all of our buildings are what people want. We've made it. Because that is so hard to keep up with. Every 20 or 30 years, a whole new generation that grew up in an entirely different world than the generation before them wants completely different things. You're like, we just finished the last round of buildings. What is that cycle like as you look towards the future?
Well, I hope we never sit back and think we're caught up, because if we think that, we're probably deceiving ourselves, because it will continue to change. And there's always those comparisons, like once you finish, painting the Golden Gate Bridge, you need to start over. And I think there is some of that. And we also have to be respectful to the people already living on our campus, and trying to ensure we're using our financial strength appropriately, so we're not putting the village at undue risk as we take on debt and build new projects. We also, construction can be disruptive when you're tearing down buildings and, closing parking lots and all those kinds of things. And so it is a measured approach. We are moving at a faster pace with our redevelopment than we were even 5 and 10 years ago. And it is pretty exciting. And I just can't imagine that stopping. And the community of Lee Summit has changed so much since I started working here. And, with the homes and the professions of the people who were living in Lee Summit, they were going to be aging. And, we want people to feel like they can move to a retirement community that's in their own backyard. And so we want to keep pace with other people who are making Lee Summit the wonderful community that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of mentioned that the older end of the baby boomers are starting to be looking at these, needing these things, wanting these things moving in. We've all heard how just the quantity, the large size of the baby boomer generation. Is our infrastructure ready for this? Like, do we have enough John Knox villages in the country to house all the people that will want them? Or what do you foresee over the next 10, 20 years as the boomers kind of age into needing these things?
That's interesting, because I just read an article over the weekend that as an industry, our development isn't keeping pace with what the need is going to be. And it did slow down significantly during COVID. And so between replacement, which is a lot of what John Knox Village is doing, tearing down and building new, slowed, and then the development of brand new communities slowed. And so as an industry, there's a lot of communication out there about how we really do need to pick up the pace sooner rather than later, so that we are prepared for that. And then also we have to take in consideration the shifting preferences. So the nursing home industry really hasn't bounced back since COVID, and more is being pushed into assisted living memory care, the growth of home health and hospice, bringing services into the home. So again, it's about keeping people as independent as possible for as long as possible, and recognizing as long as they're safe, whatever setting that they prefer to be in. And so we are seeing, as an industry, more nursing homes closing. And when new retirement communities are being built, some of them are being built without the skilled nursing component, and shifting all their health care into assisted living and memory care, and handling the people who need more care in those other settings. So there's a lot of shifts. And when I say industry, it is an industry. There are a lot of people working in this industry, and a lot of money in this industry, trying to keep pace, just like other industries do with, the market forces.
I have a few more questions for you. One is, I know at John Knox, you guys are often on the forefront of technology developments that people may not even think of, redevelopment, all of that stuff. What are you and your team most excited about over the next couple of years? What are you guys working on at John Knox that has everyone the most jazzed that you're working on?
Probably depends on who you asked. So though not technology driven, our bowlers are very excited about the current renovation of our bowling alley. Most retirement communities don't have a bowling alley, but ours is getting a major renovation. So that's quite exciting. From a technology standpoint, I think some of the most interesting developments have been in the areas of on the healthcare realm. So one of the things that has been, we actually won an award for, believe it or not, is a technology called Virtue Sense. And I'm not a technical person, but it's a balance assessment that, you stand in front of a monitor and you move certain ways. It tells you to do certain things. And there's algorithms in there that assess your fall risk. So when people join our fitness centers, which are 24/7, access through a card code, strength equipment, cardio equipment, when people sign up, we say, we really want to do this Virtue Sense assessment on you to see if you're fall risk. And then we can also refer people to the right fitness programs or to physical therapy if they need that. to try to keep them strong. And then we can continue to reassess them. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we track those and we can show improvement in gait and balance by using this tool and help people set goals. And, falling can be bad when you're old. And so if we can help people not fall, that is fantastic. And we're also using some passive AI technology that is based on identifying when people are likely to fall in the nursing home and in assisted living. You can't see on the screen anybody's face, but you can see a body, and there are certain behaviors that apparently create a higher likelihood of falling. And so we can get in there and intervene before somebody has fallen out of bed or something like that. So those healthcare technologies, I think, are really important, especially as there's such a demand for healthcare workers. Any tools that we can have to help people be safer and healthier, I think those are the real winners. Of course, there's all sorts of fun things that can be done with technology as well. But when you talk about meaningful improvements, I think those ones on the healthcare side really can be most impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crazy, like just crazy technology. Okay, last two questions I ask everyone that comes on the show. First one is, what is a great meal that you've had out and about in Kansas City recently?
I would probably say having the Juliet cocktail at North at 119th and Row, followed by the grilled branzino and their salted caramel dessert.
Oh man, that is all horses. Perfect.
You have to start with the Juliet cocktail.
Okay, I noted. I will definitely do that. Okay, and last question is, where can people find more information about John Knox, and maybe even ways they can get on campus and just see what you guys have going on there? It's because I know a lot of people, like, you drive by and don't even realize what all is back there. It just looks like a neighborhood. So
yeah, well, and a lot of retirement communities are gated communities, or there's a house on the hill and you have this grand entrance, and we're not like that. We're very integrated into the community. But boy, if anybody has been out to 470 and Pryor Road or 50 Highway and Chipman Road, we have so much retail and restaurants and exciting growth. Leaf Summit is a great community part of. We're right across the street from Summit Woods Shopping Center. And, we always have things going on. We welcome the opportunity to show off the campus, whether that's an adult child thinking, gosh, I need to learn more about this because mom's needs are changing, or, seniors saying, we're not ready for it yet, but we might be in 5 years, or, that kind of thing. So we do have marketing events. And so people can go to jkv.org or johnknoxvillage.org and find out more about the village and the housing and the healthcare. And although I encourage people to move in to independent living and move through as their needs change, people can move directly into assisted living as well. And but assisted living can be tougher to get into sometimes, just because there is a high demand for that level of care right now. We also have a lot of events that are open to the public at the John Knox Village Pavilion, which is a big meeting area. A lot of folks have been to the pavilion for various craft shows that we have that were released the building, or they've been to a high school commencement or a high school prom out here. So we try to do a lot with the community. We partner with the Leaf Summit Symphony. They perform 4 times a year at the pavilion, which is a great community symphony. And so we've got a lot of things going on all the time. And when people come out to the marketing event, we usually have some free drawings. It might be for a TV or an iPad, or, a gift certificate to Jack Stack, or, whatever the case may be. So it can take people a while to reach the decision of moving to the village or to another retirement community. And again, there are many good ones here in Kansas City. So sometimes it can be a slow process, and people have to come out multiple times before they're ready to make the move, because the move can be a lot, especially if somebody's moving from a family home where they lived for 20 or 30 or 40 years that has a lot of memory. But Sometimes those things, they run their course, right? And somebody doesn't need all that space, or they don't need the stairs, or they don't need the lawn. And so we have a lot of nice options for people who recognize that maybe downsizing and living in a community of their peers with a lot of programs, services, and amenities can be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the restaurants, anyone can go eat at the restaurants at John.
Oh, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. And we do. We have 6 restaurants that serve our independent living area, and then one that serves both independent living and assisted. And they're all different in terms of their menus. And we do have chefs on staff. And I haven't had these in the last month or whatever time period you asked me, but the chicken quesadillas at our Stories pub are killer. And so we do have a lot of good food out here, and not only at the restaurants, but a lot of our resident activities and events. Cookies and brownies are plentiful out here at John Knox Village. So, yes, so lots of good food. Thank you for pointing that out. But yes, our restaurants are really, comparable with a community restaurant. It's not institutional food service, all served out of one kitchen. Each restaurant, again, has its own menu, its own chef, and we're really proud of our restaurants, and just renovated our Places restaurant and our the Villager salon that's adjacent to it. So we've got a pretty new restaurant to show off if people want to come out and meet with somebody from our sales team and have a free lunch. We'd love to have them out here.
Awesome. That's exciting. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I encourage everyone to go check out John Knox. There's a lot going on there. So, Maria, thank you for your time. Guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Rachel.